In our first non-EX tournament, the contenders all created great decks. However, one deck stood far above them all and proved unbeatable, and that was Ninetales on Rapidash. Drake's Ninetales on Rapidash deck, which also was the most popular during the tournament, outperformed all. The sheer power of Ninetales' flamethrower attack, the low energy cost for Rapidash, and the additional boost from Plane makes this deck as powerful as it is. But will this all change during this week's Little Legends League non-EX tournament? This time we have 128 players competing, and after 4 rounds of Swiss, only the 8 best would continue into the next round. But let's have a look at these top 8 players. So first up, we have Big Boy Snap running an interesting Dragonite and Mewtwo deck, both high energy cards, but let's see. Next up, we have Pork Sandwich, where we see our first Ninetales Rapidash deck coming into the top 8. But next we have Bones, who's also running a Ninetales Rapidash deck, and they will not be the last ones either. However, next we have something different, with some diversity with a Greninja Tentacruel deck from Darth Taylor 22. But next we have returning champion Drake running his trusty Ninetales on Rapidash deck again. But can he do it again? As he faces off against Rarepls, also running a Rapidash Ninetales deck, so let's see how this matchup goes. But next we have Venti Lenti running a Greninja Articuno deck, which I'm excited to see, as it faces off against another Rapidash Ninetales deck, but this time from ZZZ. So these are our top 8 that managed to beat all other 120 players, but let's go into the first match and see how the Dragonite Mewtwo deck performs. So this is the second match between Big Boy Snap and Pork Sandwich, and Pork Sandwich managed to win the first one with their deck. So you can see each deck's on the side. But let's look into the game. So Big Boy Snap starts with his Mewtwo and Pork Sandwich starts with their Vulpix. Big Boy Snap then plays the Professor's Research, getting their Dratini and Dragonair, which is huge for the start. So they place down the Dratini, but then they also use a red card to sort of make the start for Pork Sandwich a little bit harder as they start the first turn. They do get a Ponytail however, and they also have a Pokeball to get another basic card on the bench, which is another Vulpix. But then we go back to Big Boy Snap's turn and he gets a Dragonite as well, meaning his whole line is complete. However, if Pork Sandwich gets his red card as well, as you can see he has in his deck, then things could change here. But we go back to Pork Sandwich and they play another Pokeball. They place down the Ponytail that they just got and evolve one of the Ponytails to a Rapidash and switch that one in and attack the Mewtwo. So the Mewtwo in Big Boy Snap's deck acts mainly as like a damage wall. It protects the Dragonite from setting up, but there's no psychic energy in this deck as we can see, so it will never be able to attack. So Big Boy Snap now has a Dragonair already, but here is the red card that we were worried for. So actually, Big Boy Snap could have evolved a Dragonite to a Dragonair, other way around, Dragonair to a Dragonite, but they didn't do so, and this has cost them dearly. So now we go back to Big Boy Snap and they get another Mewtwo, which they'll place down after placing this Professor Oak. This gives them another red card, which they could use, but they only have one card in Pork Sandwich's hand, so there's no sense in using it. So for now they just put on energy on the Dragonair, place down the other Mewtwo, and just end their turn and see if Pork Sandwich can sort of follow up. But Pork Sandwich is missing their Ninetales. They have 2 Vulpixes on the bench, both having 1 energy, but no Ninetales yet. But however, they do get their first point by knocking out the Mewtwo, but Big Boy Snap has another Mewtwo to put in there, and he gets the Dragonite, which he was looking for. Of course, he now immediately plays the Dragonite, doesn't forget it like last time, puts on the 4th energy, and now it's ready to attack, but it waits to do so. So Pork Sandwich then just continues as they're doing. They don't have a Ninetales yet, they do some more damage to the Mewtwo. And here we see Kangaskhan coming in Big Boy Snap's hand, but they don't have any use yet, but they can now switch out the Mewtwo using their X speed and energy, place down the Kangaskhan, and then use Draco Meteor to get their first point on the board as well. They managed to only knock out one of them, and they knocked out the Vulpix, which only had 1 energy, and they left the Vulpix with 2 energy sadly. And now here Pork Sandwich gets their Ninetales, which is huge, but they use a Sabrina to actually put in the Mewtwo, and they keep the Rapidash there, which is interesting. However, Big Boy Snap gets another X speed, meaning they could switch out immediately, but they don't. They put the energy on Kangaskhan instead and leave the Mewtwo up there to sort of act as a damage sponge, because the Ninetales can do huge amount of damage if left there. So Big Boy Snap gets a Pokédex. They can look into the next 3 cards. They do see they get a potion, but the other 2 cards are not that relevant as they probably won't get another Dragonite up in time anyways. But now they do put the energy on the Mewtwo, they use Draco Meteor this time, and they get 2 KOs in 1 hit, winning them the game, getting them 3 points, and they win game 2. So this match is now going to a game 3. And in game 3, Big Boy Snap starts with a Mewtwo again, where Pork Sandwich has a full bench lined up already. So Big Boy Snap uses a Professor's Research. They get another Dragonair. They also get a red card, which you can immediately use. Is this the smartest at the moment in time? We're not sure, because we don't see the other hand. But for now, they're missing the Dratini. So they have to place the energy on the Mewtwo, which is a bit useless, but Pork Sandwich now already has a Ninetales with 1 energy, so this is quite scary for Big Boy Snap. But they do get a Pokeball, so they will get the Dratini, hopefully. But they use the Professor first, they get 2 potions, which is not that well needed. They use Pokemon and they do get a Dratini, they don't get the Kangaskhan or another Mewtwo, so they can start building up the Dragonite for late damage as well. But we go back to Pork Sandwich, and can they capitalize early? And they do have a Blaine, they do have an X-Speed as well, so they have all the cards that they need and they can knock out this Mewtwo in one go. This gives them their first point, and they are now close to victory, I have to say, because Big Boy Snap is nowhere near in completing their Dragonite line. So they do get lucky and they get a Mewtwo, so they can evolve their Dratini to a Dragonair. They place their Mewtwo down and they use the XP to put the Mewtwo in front to protect the Dragonair from being killed. So we go back to Pork Sandwich, and they have a Sabrina card, which is definitely amazing to use at this moment in time. It allows them to do 90 damage against a Dragonair, which is now sitting at 10 HP. So Big Boy Snap is in a very tricky situation right now. He has to switch it out, otherwise they will lose the game because their whole deck is riding on this Dragonite. They decide to use their 2 potions on the Dragonair to heal it up a little bit more, but it will protect against the Rapidash attack, but it won't protect against a Ninetales deck again. But they end their turn, they can't do much else, but they do have a Dragonite now. And they now do Flamethrower, bringing the Mewtwo to a very low HP as well. So now Big Boy Snap has to make some moves. They don't have enough energy yet, they place the third one down on Dragonite now, and they end their turn and it goes back to Pork Sandwich. They will be able to knock out... No, they actually use a Sabrina first, so the Dragonite goes back in and they are able to do another 90 damage to this Dragonite. Now the Dragonite is at very low HP, so one hit will knock it out regardless of anything. So they have to do something. Well, let's see what they do. They place down 2 more cards on their bench, they put the 4th energy on Dragonite, and they decide to just attack. They were hoping for maybe the triple KO, but they only get 1. They're giving them 1 point, and this means that basically Pork Sandwich can now knock out this Dragonite, but they do so with the Rapidash to be a little bit more safe, giving them their 2nd point. However, Big Boy Snap doesn't have much on the bench to still win. They still have a Dratini, but Dratini has 0 energy. By the time it has 4 energy, it will be dead. So Big Boy Snap gets a Pokédex, they place an energy on Kangaskhan, they use the Pokédex to see if they get anything more useful in the next turns, but they don't. They do get a Dragonair, but then they get a Pokeball, which is not that helpful. But they decide to attack with Kangaskhan, getting 1 hit, doing 30 damage, so they don't get enough to get that 2nd KO. So go back to Pork Sandwich. Pork Sandwich can now hopefully, potentially finish it off. They use a potion first, they put the energy on the Ninetales, and they decide to attack. So they don't have Giovanni, actually don't have a Giovanni in their deck anyway, so they can't get it. So go back to Big Boy Snap. They attack again, they can't do much else. They get a double Tails, their luck is down the drain right now. And now what Big Boy Snap is done, Pork Sandwich can just put in their Ninetales and they can KO the Kangaskhan, getting their 3rd point and getting the victory. So we can clearly see how the Ninetales deck is doing amazing here, and Big Boy Snap's deck, even though very creative, the Mewtwo didn't have much of a role. So Big Boy Snap now is knocked out, Pork Sandwich goes to the next round, but let's look at the next match. However, we don't have footage from the next match, so Bones actually goes through and winning against Darth Tater. But let's look then at Drake against rarepls. So Drake here is running his trusty Ninetales Rapidash deck. He's won the last non-EX tournament, and rarepls has also a Rapidash Ninetales deck. However, there's a big twist between the two, that rarepls has a Farfetch'd in their deck, which could come in clutch for the early damage. So rarepls is off to a good start. They have their Ninetales up and running in the active position, getting the 1st point against Drake. So let's see how Drake can respond. They put the Ponyta in the active spot, but do they have anything for the bench? Otherwise they are a bit in a tricky position. They do have the Rapidash, they put the energy on there, but they also have a Giovanni to do a little bit more damage, able to knock it out in 2 hits instead of 3 hits. But they don't have anything else on the bench, no Vulpix, and that puts them in a very precarious situation. rarepls meantime gets some draw support, places down an energy on the Ninetales again and attacks again, doing 90 damage again this Rapidash. So Rapidash is now able to knock out Ninetales in one go by using a Giovanni in the turn before. They do finally get something for the bench, which is another Ponyta, but they're looking for that Vulpix, of course. But in the meantime, they get their first point as well, meaning now the game is equal and both teams don't have a active Ninetales, which could actually be a game changer. And here Rareples gets their Farfetch, the main difference in both decks. But for now it doesn't get to act, they just put the energy on the Rapidash, doing another 40 damage, getting their second point in. So Drake is now 2 points down, they only have 1 point themselves and they only have a Ponyta. They really need something else in order to have a chance in this game. But they see their card, they concede the game, they don't have anything in it apparently. So they have to concede and we go into the next game. So let's see if Rareples can make this a 2-0 or if Drake can claw one back. So this time, both players start with 2 cards, however Drake only starts with 2 Ponytas, where Rareples start with a Ponyta and a Vulpix. So again, Drake has this issue of getting a Vulpix, but let's see if it will cost him the game again. So Rareples uses a Pokeball, they get a Vulpix, they place down the energy on the Ponyta, they place down their second Vulpix, and they just attack, ending their turn. So now let's see what Drake can do. But perhaps they can use a red card. No, they use a Rapidash first, they evolve it, and they use a Blaine immediately as well, giving them an early KO on the Ponyta. This could come in clutch, but it could also be, it's a risky play because the Blaine could come in helpful later down the line for the Ninetales. But for now, they place down the Vulpix, Rareples, they get the Rapidash in their hand, which they don't have a need for. But for now, they put the energy on the Vulpix and hope for a Tail Whip, and they get heads, so Rapidash can't attack Vulpix next turn. But let's see how Drake responds. Drake uses a research to get some more cards. Do they get a Vulpix? They do get a Vulpix now, they get 2 Vulpixes actually. And they use an XP to bring in the other Ponyta, and then attack with that Ponyta. So this way they can avoid the Vulpix with the Tail Whip, and they put it in range for a KO next turn. So Rareples draws a Blaine, they still don't have a Ninetales, they don't have a Ponyta either, so they're a bit of a tricky spot right now. But do they get another Tail Whip? No, they don't get it. They get Tails in a Tail Whip, very punny. And we go back to Drake's turn. So Drake evolves their Ponyta to Rapidash, now they have 2 Rapidashes up and ready, and they knock out the Vulpix of Rareples. So now Rareples really needs that Ninetales, and they need something more for the bench, otherwise it could be KO if Drake gets a Giovanni or a Blaine as well. But they do get a Ninetales, that is huge for Rareples. They immediately evolve it, of course, they use the Blaine as well to get the Rapidash out, and they are back on track. So let's see how Drake can respond, because they only have a Rapidash with 1 energy, not being able to knock out that Ninetales, and they don't have the Ninetales themselves yet, and don't even have an energy on the Vulpixes yet. But for now they use a red card, which could actually be helpful to Rareples right now, but they get almost the same hand except for another Ninetales. And they have a Giovanni, they do 50 damage, bringing Ninetales in range for the next attack. So Rareples only has evolutions in their hand, they don't have any basic cards, so they just have to use Flamethrower, knock out this Rapidash, and hope that Drake doesn't get a Ninetales. If Drake gets a Ninetales right now, or if they get the Tail Whip landing, they get another turn. There's 2 ways Drake can still be in this, but they don't get a Ninetales, they have to go for the Tail Whip, and they do get a head, so they're at least safe for another turn. Rareples now gets their Farfetch, which could actually come in clutch at this moment in time. However, Drake keeps their Ninetales in, they just leave it there, and let's see if they get a Ninetales. They don't get a Ninetales, so they go for another Tail Whip and they get Tails this time, so that means that Rareples can now end the game, but Drake concedes, and Rareples knocks out the previous tournament winner. So Rareples goes on to the next stage, but let's have a look at Ventilenti versus ZZZ. So this is an interesting matchup, because Ventilenti has the type advantage by having a water deck. They start with Froakie and Articuno, and ZZZ only has a Vulpix right now. So Ventilenti has the Greninja in their hand, but they don't have a Frogadier. They're missing the Frogadier right now. ZZZ plays a Pokeball, they get another card on their bench with Ponyta, and they decide to use Tail Whip, but they get Tails, meaning Froakie can attack next turn. Ventilenti gets some much needed raw support, hoping they get a Frogadier. They get more, they get a Misty and an Oak, which is not exactly what they need, but at least they have another chance next turn. But for now they just attack. Vulpix bringing it down to 20, bring it in range for the next attack. But ZZZ has that Ninetales, and they are able to attack immediately with it, knocking out the Froakie early on. So this could actually come in very clutch for ZZZ. Because now Ventilenti is in the in the backseat. The Articuno needs free energy to do anything. It's basically a damage sponge right now. Ventilanti does get another Froakie though, which they can place on the bench, and they use Misty hoping Articuno can do something. However, Misty, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. They get a tail, so they can't do anything. Place the energy on Froakie and end their turn. So you go back to ZZZ, who of course now also has a Giovanni, making them KO the Articuno as well, putting Ventilanti in a very tricky position, again showcasing how strong this Ninetales Rapidash deck is. So Froakie goes in. It needs a Frogadier now, otherwise it's definitely out. They get a Greninja, they don't get a Frogadier, so now it's... they don't concede, they decide to continue. They use the Professor Research, they still don't get the Frogadier, they get another Pokeball though, which gives them a little bit of extra leeway because they get an Articuno, which they can then place in front again, hoping that ZZZ doesn't have a Blaine or Giovanni. They can't have a Giovanni, only one in their deck, so it has to be a Blaine. No, they have a Sabrina instead. Same thing, so Ventilanti has to concede and ZZZ wins game 1. So let's go into game 2 and see if it goes any different. This time Ventilanti goes first, and if you look at the starting hands, Ventilanti has an Articuno and ZZZ has the Vulpix there again. So Ventilanti has 2 Misties in their hand, so they're hoping for an early KO. They get 1 head, so at least they get 1 energy on this Articuno already, and they can use Misty next turn, hoping to quickly knock out ZZZ. ZZZ doesn't have anything, they play Tail Whip, they don't get the heads, they get the tails. And now Ventilanti of course plays their Misty card and they get 3 heads, meaning they can immediately knock out this Vulpix, winning them game 2 in record time. So this is the strength of course of Misty and the strength of this deck especially. So we go into game 3 and let's see how this one goes. Ventilanti goes first again, and if you look at their starting hands, Ventilanti starts with Articuno again, doesn't have a Misty this time though, and ZZZ starts with the Ponyta. So on Ventilanti's turn he can't do anything, they can't do anything, so ZZZ's turn starts and they get a Pokeball. Do they get a Vulpix? They do get the Vulpix, place it down immediately, do some damage on the Articuno, but that's all they can do this turn. So you go back to Ventilanti and they get some much needed raw support. They use that immediately of course. They get another Greninja, which is not the most helpful. They need a Froakie, they don't have that yet, so they place the energy on Articuno for now and end their turn. But ZZZ has a Rapidash, so they can do some damage on this Articuno, start whittling it down. They also have a red card, removing 7 cards in Ventilanti's hand. They still don't get the Froakie though, but they do have a Pokeball. But they do a huge 70 damage early on to this Articuno, bringing it down to 10 HP. So now Ventilanti really needs something, otherwise they'll be knocked out. So they use the Pokeball of course, they get another Froakie, or the first Froakie. Of course they will place down, they also place down the other Articuno. And of course they switch in this Froakie. Oh, they switch in Froakie, not Articuno, interesting. So they're giving up on the Greninja line and they're actually going for the Articuno attack, which is an interesting choice to make at this point. But ZZZ is still missing their Ninetales, but they do have another Blaine able to knock out another Mon. Well, another Mon, they are able to knock out the first one now, but this Articuno is at 10 HP. However, they get a Pokeball, meaning they get another Froakie in again, so at the same stage. They place it down, they place the third energy on that Articuno that has low HP, use Ice Beam, bring down the Rapidash to 20. They don't paralyze it though, which was very much needed. So ZZZ puts a second energy in Vulpix, but they don't have a Ninetales yet. They just knock out the Articuno, getting their second point in. However, they have used both Blaine cards, so they can't knock out anything in one go, at least anytime soon. So now I go back to Ventilanti, and they get a Frogadier, which could come in clutch. So they immediately evolve Froakie to Frogadier, place the energy on there, and now they have to hope they get the Greninja as well in order to get some points in. However, ZZZ has the Sabrina, oof, and that's KO. That's the end of Ventilanti. They concede, and Ventilanti loses against the Rapidash Ninetales deck. So all Rapidash Ninetales deck have survived, and they are all in the semi-finals now. So let's see how they play against each other. So we have Bones against Pork Sandwich in the first semi-final. So Bones also has a Farfetch in their deck, similar to what rarepls had. Bones, however, starts with this Farfetch'd, and Pork Sandwich starts with the Ponyta. They have a lot of draw support, Pork Sandwich. They have a Ponyta and a Vulpix on the bench now as well. And now Bones' turn, they have 2 Ninetales ready to go. But for now, of course, they can't use it. It's their first turn. They place down the other Ponyta. They place the energy on Vulpix instead. They decided to go a little bit more careful and not go aggressive early on. Because they know they have 2 Ninetales, they can go for the early KO soon. Pork Sandwich has some draw support. They get some more cards in their hand. They basically have a full bench right now. Fully evolved Ninetales, fully evolved Rapidash, and they're able to attack Farfetch early on. And they have a red card that removes both Bones' Ninetales. But they do get one back, so they're still lucky, they still have one, which is very much needed, because without Ninetales they would be in a very tricky position. And they do get another Vulpix as well now, so of course they place that one down. They use the Pokeball to get their last Ponyta as well. They place the energy on Farfetch this time, so they decide to put it on there. They should have put it on there last time, then they at least would have done a little bit more damage. However, the Farfetch gets knocked out by the Rapidash, and now it's Bones' turn again. So Ponyta gets placed down, they evolve the Vulpix to a Ninetales, and they knock out the Rapidash with the Ninetales. However, this is the tricky thing with playing a Ninetales deck against another Ninetales deck, because you need to time your Ninetales against your opponent's Ninetales, because they can knock out each other in one time. Bones realizes this as well at this point, because when you play your Ninetales too early and your Ninetales get knocked out by the opponent's one, you're in a very much trickier situation than your opponent. So Bones loses the game 1, we go into the second game, Farfetch'd again, Vulpix on Pork Sandwich's side. Let's see what happens this time. So Bones can't do much, Pork Sandwich has a Pokeball, they use it immediately, they have a Ponyta as well now, they have more draw support with Professor's Research, they have an X-Speed to put in the Vulpix in the safety, and they attack with Ponyta doing 20 damage early on Farfetch and also putting it in range for a Rapidash attack next turn. So Bones has a Pokeball, which is very much needed, they don't have any basic cards in their hand. They do get a Ponyta, however, I think they were hoping for the Vulpix, but they put the energy on Farfetch and bring Ponyta back to 20 HP. So let's see if Pork Sandwich has this Rapidash card that they need. They do have it, they place it down immediately, they have more draw support as well, putting them in an even better position. They evolve their Vulpix to a Ninetales, have another Ponyta, they have everything basically what they need, a potion as well, everything is going their way. And even a red card, well, this tops it off. So Bones gets 2 Vulpixes and a Giovanni, which is not the best, they do really need that Ninetales. They are now 1 point down, Pork Sandwich KOs the Farfetch'd, giving them their first point. And now Bones is in a very tough spot. So they don't have Ninetales, they have 2 Vulpixes and they have a Farfetch'd. Let's see if they can cope with this. They place the energy on one of the Vulpixes and they have to hope they get Ninetales next turn. But for now, it's Pork Sandwich's turn, they just attack with the Rapidash doing another 40 damage to Ponyta. And do they get the Ninetales? They don't, they get a Blaine, which is not helpful at this moment in time. So they decide to do some damage to this Rapidash. They use Giovanni, they get 30 damage in. Doesn't help that much, unfortunately, this time, because Rapidash is still out of range for most attacks of Bones' team. Bones decides to concede because they're not getting the Ninetales they're not able to win anymore. So we have our first finalist, which is Pork Sandwich. But let's go into the next game where Rarepls faces off against ZZZ. So Rarepls goes first, and again the difference between those two decks is this Farfetch'd. Can this Farfetch do some work this time? So Rarepls starts with Ponyta, they get a Vulpix in their hand, they have a Pokeball, they have a Professor's Research, they have a good starting hand basically. And they have a Ninetales ready as well. On ZZZ's side, they have a Vulpix there, they also have a Pokeball, giving them another Vulpix, but they don't have a Ponyta, so this puts them in a little bit of a tricky situation. Rarepls gets a Sabrina, which is also interesting, it could come in clutch. But for now, they opt for going for the Research, getting another Pokeball, getting more Research if needed for next turn. They use the Pokeball, getting the Ponyta, so now they have all the basics in their deck. They place down the first energy on Ninetales, and now they are ready to do some damage next turn. So now ZZZ really needs something. They have a Ponyta, which is something. They put that in immediately, put the energy on there, and start doing some damage. So now we go back to Rarepls, and is their plan to put in this Ninetales immediately, or are they gonna wait a little bit? Let's see what their plan is. So they use a Research, they get an X-Speed, so they are gonna put in the Ninetales, put the energy on there, and go for an early KO on the Ponyta. But as I mentioned, if ZZ now has a Ninetales, if you play your own Ninetales too early, it can put you in a tricky spot. So let's see if ZZZ gets that Ninetales. They do put the second, and they do have the Ninetales, so they can use Flamethrower to knock out Rarepls' Ninetales. And now I would say the tables have turned quite a bit, because Rareplease doesn't have anything with energy, they don't have a Ninetales, they do have a Blaine already, and they get the Rapidash, which is really needed. Without this Rapidash, it would be in a very tough spot. So they involve their Ponyta to Rapidash, place the energy on there, use the Blaine, and are able to do a huge 70 damage as well. When I go back to ZZZ, and they, of course, they can knock out this Rapidash easily. However, their Ninetales will be knocked out next turn, of course, with only having 20 HP. So now we can see that even though ZZ has 2 points, they were in a better position. They don't have a good bench, and Rareplease at least has quite a stacked bench. They have another Ninetales there as well. They have the Farfetch, they can knock out the Ninetales, and they have some damage for next 2 turns at least. ZZZ really needs this Ninetales. If they get a Ninetales now, they win. It's basically, they have 2 turns to get a Ninetales, otherwise they lose. They don't get it in the first turn, but they do have Tail Whip. They get Tails, however, which does not help them. Rareplease doesn't get what they need. I mean, they don't need much, they just need 1 more turn and they can win. So they place the energy on there, just attack. And now we go back to ZZZ. Do they get a Ninetales now? No, they have a Pokeball. I guess that's what they got. They do have a Sabrina though, but it only makes it easier for them. Actually, no, they can use Tail Whip. They get heads. They get a heads. Actually, this is a very good play by ZZZ. It gives them an extra turn. Actually, it doesn't, of course, because the Vulpix is at 10 AP. Never mind. It doesn't help that much. So game 1 goes to Rareplease. ZZZ loses it. They didn't get the Ninetales in time. They played their Ninetales very early, but it didn't help. So now we go to the second game. So in the second game, Rareplease started with Ponyta and ZZZ started with a Vulpix. So let's see what they get. So Rareplease doesn't have the Ninetales in their hand, but they do have a Rapidash, but they don't have a Ponyta. ZZZ, however, has some draw support, which is very much needed, of course. They use the Tail Whip, they don't get it, so Ponyta can at least do some damage next turn. So Rareplease gets another Ponyta. They evolve their Ponyta to a Rapidash now. I forgot they do have Ponyta there. Ooh, they get the Giovanni, of course. They can knock out Vulpix early on. They get the second game extremely fast, knocking out ZZZ early on because they only had a Vulpix. The Giovanni came in super clutch. Shows the importance of it. So Rareplease goes in the final against Pork Sandwich. And let's see how this one goes. This is exciting. We have 2 very strong players here. 2 Ninetales Rapidash decks. Let's see how this one goes. So to start with, we have Rareplease with Ponyta and Pork Sandwich with 2 Ponytas. And it's interesting to see again, this Farfetch is the difference, the main difference between the 2 decks. Pork Sandwich also has a potion, but it doesn't have a Giovanni. And they have a red card as well, and Rareplease has opted mainly for Sabrinas and for Giovanni. So let's see what the difference will be. So Rareplease gets the Vulpix. They have 2 cards on the bench now as well. They're off to a good start. Pork Sandwich, however, has a red card, which let's see if it helps. Ooh, it does give Rareplease their Ninetales, so that could actually be detrimental. But let's see how that continues. So back to Rareplease's turn. They have a Blaine as well now, which basically gives them most of what they need to do some early attacking. They evolve their Vulpix to Ninetales. They use an X-Speed to put in the other Ponyta instead, so Pork Sandwich doesn't get an early point of Rapidash. However, Pork Sandwich doesn't even have a Rapidash, so that was actually not needed. Of course, you don't know this, you know this afterwards. So Rareplease is basically able to attack early on with a full energy Ninetales, and Pork Sandwich doesn't have anything good going there for them right now. So Rareplease gets their first point in the finals. They knock out the Ponyta. And Pork Sandwich only has 1 Ponyta. They really need a Vulpix right now, or they are cooked. So they don't get it. They get a Sabrina though. That gives them a little bit more time. They do another 20 damage on this Ponyta that was already damaged. Rareplease gets another Vulpix. So they opt to place that one down and not the Farfetch'd. They put the energy on Ninetales. And they end their turn. They don't have an X-Speed, so they couldn't bring it in, of course. So here we see a little bit, of course, again, the difference of the decks being, at least that Ponyta gets knocked out. So the Farfetch, I don't know if it's helpful or not, but at least the Farfetch is scary if you don't have an early start with your Ponyta and Vulpixes. So we go back to Rareplease's turn. They place down the Farfetch now. They actually put it in order to soak up some damage, but also to put on pressure at Pork Sandwich at the same time. It's actually quite smart, because if Pork Sandwich has a Ninetales now, which they do, they could have knocked out their Ninetales, giving them the advantage. So by putting in a Farfetch, they actually save themselves some time. However, Pork Sandwich also has a Rapidash now. They put the Farfetch back to 20 HP. We go back to rarepls' turn. They decide to put in the Ponyta and evolve that one to a Rapidash, put the energy on there, and then use a Blaine to get their second point. So now actually rarepls is in a very good situation. Pork Sandwich is not in a good spot right now. They of course will place in, oh actually no, they will place in their Vulpix instead. Let's see why they do that. They go for a Sabrina, which will bring in the Farfetch, and then they realize there's no point in winning anymore and they concede the game. So now we go into the second game. Rarepls winning the first one. Again, the Farfetch is doing some bits. I think the Farfetch is especially helpful against other Rapidash Ninetales decks, and that's why it's in there. It can put pressure early on Vulpix and early on Ponyta, and that is why it's doing quite well. But in this case, Pork Sandwich has a good start, good bench, 2 Ponytas, 1 Vulpix, but we go back to Rarepls, who only has a Ponyta for now. They do get a Ninetales though, they don't have a Vulpix yet. But for now, they just evolve their Ponyta to a Rapidash, put the energy on there, and do 40 damage to Pork Sandwich's Ponyta. So back to Pork Sandwich. Let's see if they can cook something this time. They have another Vulpix, they have a full bench, but they don't have any evolutions right now apparently. So they decide to put in the Vulpix to get a Tail Whip, and they do get the Tail Whip, so Rapidash can't attack next turn. However, Pork Sandwich really needs his evolution cards in order to be able to do something this game. But for now, Rarepls, they use a Pokeball, they get a Farfetch, they place it down, they've used the retreat. They put in the Farfetch now in the active position, with a Giovanni being able to knock out the Vulpix in one go, getting an early point, and again showing why Farfetch can be very useful in this deck against other Ninetales decks, especially with a Giovanni in your deck. So now Pork Sandwich has to put in their Ponyta, they do 20 damage to Farfetch, but they're not able to do anything else as they still are missing their evolution cards. So back to Rarepls, they get more draw support, so they immediately use it of course. They get a Pokeball and a Blaine. Ooh, that is quite huge. So they use the Pokeball, they get a Vulpix, place it down immediately of course, put the energy on there, they have the Vulpix, the Ninetales ready for next turn. Pork Sandwich really needs something good right now. So Pork Sandwich now finally has an evolution card, they have the Rapidash, which they place on. They also have a red card, which is really big right now, because now the Ninetales of Rarepls is gone. So they knock out Farfetch, getting their point as well, and Rarepls doesn't have the Ninetales which they had initially. So again, red card, coming in clutch sometimes, coming in a bit annoying sometimes, I don't know, I'm still not too convinced, but it can become a super good card if used at the right time. But for now, Rarepls, they get a Rapidash, they're able to do 70 damage using a Blaine, getting in their second point, so they're still doing quite well. Pork Sandwich still needs that Ninetales. They place in the Vulpix for now. Let's see if they have the Ninetales. They are waiting, thinking, no, they don't have, they concede the game. They don't have the Ninetales, they don't have anything. So Rarepls is our winner and Pork Sandwich is our runner-up, so congratulations to Rarepls. This was a very intense game, very fun game, and again, Farfetch came in clutch, clearly visible why Farfetch was in there. So again, congratulations to Rarepls. You are the winner of the second non-EX tournament. And if you want to join yourself, we have a tournament every week, but please like and subscribe for more. See ya!